News. Shep Smith reporting live from the Fox News deck.
Maybe the fire and fury statement wasn't tough enough. That from President Trump just minutes ago during a meeting with his security team at his golf club in New Jersey.
Frankly, the people that were questioning that statement, was it too tough? Maybe it wasn't tough enough. They've been doing this to our country for a long time, for many years. And it's about time that somebody stuck up for the people of this country and for the people of other countries. So, if anything, maybe that statement wasn't tough enough.
The president said North Korea needs to get its act together, or it will be in trouble like few nations have ever known. Remember, 2 days ago, the president warned North Korea, threaten us again. You threaten us again, and you'll feel the fire and fury, the power like the world has never seen. Threaten us, and that'll happen. Well, they're threatening. Red line crossed. And not only threatening, the Hermit Kingdom is mocking and taunting President Trump. The general in charge of its rocket command for its military called Mr. Trump's fire and fury threat a load of nonsense from a man bereft of reason, and made a pointed announcement. North Korea announcing it's about to take military action. Its leaders, they say, are working to finalize in the next week a plan to launch missiles to splash down near Guam. The North Korean general says President Trump's comments are getting on the nerves of the regime's soldiers. Here's part of a statement from North Korean state-run media that got pretty personal.
We cannot have a sound dialogue with a senile man who can't think rationally, and only absolute force can work on him. This is the judgment made by our soldiers of the strategic force.
The North Korean general also said the military is finalizing plans to fire those 4 mid-range missiles to fly over Japan and land just 20 to 25 miles off the coast of Guam, and that the dictator Kim Jong-un could give the okay by the middle of this month. They're standing by for the order. President Trump has just responded to all of this.
If North Korea does anything in terms of even thinking about attack of anybody that we love or we represent or our allies or us, they can be very, very nervous. I'll tell you what, and they should be very nervous.
2 days ago, it was threatening bad things will happen. Now it's do something and bad thing will happen. And Rick Leventhal is following the breaking news. Rick Leventhal in Bridgewater, New Jersey, not far from the president's golf course where he's vacationing, a working vacation clearly. Rick?
Shepard, just for some context, these comments, we believe, were made just before the security briefing that the president is scheduled to receive, along with his national security advisor, H.R. McMaster, and John Kelly, his chief of staff. Vice President Pence was standing next to the president on the front steps of his clubhouse in Bedminster just a few minutes from here when he came out and briefed reporters, the press pool, before we believe, but that was right before he went into the meeting. And we're told we're going to get more when that meeting concludes. Could be in an hour, could be a little more than that. But as you mentioned, I mean, the president clearly doubling down on his fire and fury comments, warning North Korea to stop in its tracks, to not make any more threats, and to certainly not take any actions directed at Guam or anywhere else, because as the president said, things will happen to them like they never dreamed of and have never seen before. So he's clearly sending a message to North Korea to stand down or else.
Rick, the drama and mixed messages from within the Trump administration over North Korea continues. The State Department spokesperson claiming everybody is staying in their lanes, all speaking from one voice, not on different pages. That was just yesterday from Heather Nauert. The Washington Post reports the president's deputy assistant, Sebastian Gorka, told the BBC, and I quote, "You should listen to the president. The idea that Secretary Tillerson is going to discuss military matters is simply nonsensical." This is a new quote, quoting here. "It is the job of Secretary Mattis, the defense secretary, to talk about military option, and he has done so unequivocally. Woe be to anyone who militarily challenges the United States." And that is his portfolio. That is his mandate. Quoting now, Secretary Tillerson is the chief diplomat of the United States, and it is his portfolio to handle those issues. One voice. Rick Leventhal, what's happening here?
Well, the president addressed these kinds of questions a short time ago as well during his comments to the press pool. He said that, in fact, the administration is on the same page, that, yes, settling down on his fire and fury comments, warning North Korea to stop in its tracks, to not make any more threats, and to certainly not take any actions directed at Guam or anywhere else, because, as the president said, things will happen to them like they never dreamed of and have never seen before. So he's clearly sending a message to North Korea to stand down or else.
Rick, the drama and mixed messages from within the Trump administration over North Korea continues. The State Department spokesperson claiming everybody is staying in their lanes, all speaking from one voice, not on different pages. That was just yesterday from Heather Nauert. The Washington Post reports the president's deputy assistant, Sebastian Gorka, told the BBC, and I quote, "You should listen to the president. The idea that Secretary Tillerson is going to discuss military matters is simply nonsensical." This is a new quote, quoting here. "It is the job of Secretary Mattis, the defense secretary, to talk about military option, and he has done so unequivocally. Woe be to anyone who militarily challenges the United States." And that is his portfolio. That is his mandate. Quoting now, Secretary Tillerson is the chief diplomat of the United States, and it is his portfolio to handle those issues. One voice. Rick Leventhal, what's happening here?
Well, the president addressed these kinds of questions a short time ago as well during his comments to the press pool. He said that, in fact, the administration is on the same page, that, yes, Secretary Mattis spoke very forcefully about using strength and military against North Korea, and that Secretary Tillerson was following his track to deal with diplomacy, that there are also those UN sanctions after that unanimous vote that could cost North Korea $1 billion. And he said the goal is obviously to squeeze North Korea economically and hope that prods some sort of diplomacy. But the president said he doesn't think that's going to work. He's not convinced it's going to work. And that's why there's all this talk about potential military action. But again, Shepard, the administration is asserting that they are on the same page, that all of these different people have these different jobs and are following these different tracks. But as you mentioned, Sebastian Gorka basically slapping Rex Tillerson, saying you shouldn't even be talking about military matters. You should be sticking to diplomacy. And there have been other examples over the past few days and weeks that suggest that perhaps not everyone is on the same page, but the administration insists that it is.
Rick, at the same time, the president has launched a sort of bizarre war of words with the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, and it escalated today. Actually, two escalations today. First, this morning, the president tweeted, "Can you believe that Mitch McConnell, who has screamed repeal and replace for 7 years, couldn't get it done? Must repeal and replace Obamacare." And then, "Mitch, get back to work and put repeal and replace, tax reform and cuts, and a great infrastructure bill on my desk for signing. You can do it." So that was this morning on the Twitter. Then just a few minutes ago on the microphone, the president suggested that if Leader McConnell can't get his agenda pushed through, he should step down. This all started when the Senate Majority Leader said the president had excessive expectations about how Congress works or doesn't work. And Fox News has learned the president really laid into McConnell on the telephone. Now, his quote from today, which I thought we were about to play for you, but I guess it didn't make it. Let's play that quote from him. This is the soundbite. Listen.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he doesn't get repeal and replace done, and if he doesn't get taxes done, meaning cuts and reform, and if he doesn't get a very easy one to get done, infrastructure, if he doesn't get them done, then you can ask me that question.
You can ask me that question. That's a suggestion, Rick, that if he doesn't get it done, he ought to step aside. He can't do anything without Mitch McConnell. Without Mitch McConnell, there is no legislative agenda.
It doesn't sound like a ringing endorsement. And we heard from our own Ed Henry about a phone call that the president made to Mitch McConnell yesterday morning, a phone call that lasted 10 minutes and got increasingly heated, according to Ed Henry. The president obviously very angry, apparently ripped into the Senate Majority Leader over those comments he made regarding the delays in getting the health care bill repealed, blaming it in part, McConnell did, on President Trump's inexperience. The president reportedly told McConnell he didn't appreciate the criticism. He still expects Republican leadership to repeal Obamacare, and former House Speaker Newt Gingrich weighed in on that on Fox and Friends this morning.
I think the president can't disassociate himself from this. He's part of the leadership team. He's not an observer sitting up in the stands. He's on the field. It was a collective failure.
Well, Ed Henry reports that the president also lashed into McConnell over John McCain's lack of support on health care. He said he didn't understand why McConnell was allowing McCain to keep his chairmanship of the Senate Armed Services Committee since he's bucking the Republican Party. And again, Shepard, you heard the president this afternoon suggesting that perhaps if McConnell doesn't move forward with repeal and replace, that he should be asked again about whether McConnell should resign.
On top of all this, like 5 lead stories in one day, on top of all of this, many of you I'm sure remember or read that the vice president suggested, well, there was a report that the vice president was getting ready to run for president in 2020 in case President Trump was not available for whatever reason, and then he pushed back on it really hard. Well, the president and the vice president met for the first time today since then. Rick, what happened?